Welcome back, weary traveler of time. You've chosen well. Tonight, we shall drift not through war or royalty or revolutions, but through the soft, flickering haze of 18th century Paris, guided by the nostrils of those who knew it best, the candle makers. Before we begin, allow your eyes to soften. Let the weight of the day settle down your spine. Breathe deeply. Inhale, and imagine you're not inhaling lavender or eucalyptus, but faint traces of tallow, sewage, and slowly melting wax. If that smells like a story worth falling asleep to, then you, my friend, are exactly in the right place. And if this sort of absurd bedtime history helps you drift off night after night, don't forget to subscribe. Maybe even leave a comment. Tell me, what's the worst smell you've ever met? I'd wager it still doesn't compare to 1765. Now, let's slip back. Quietly. Slowly. Close your eyes, and open your imagination. It is just before dawn. You are standing in a crooked alleyway in the 6th arrondissement, though it isn't called that yet. Nobody has cleaned this street in, well, no one can remember. A faint mist is rising, not from the Seine, but from the piles of refuse nestled cozily between buildings. The city is asleep, mostly. But you are awake, because you are apprenticed to a candle maker. And candles, you see, begin long before they flicker. Before the wick is dipped, before the wax is poured, there is the matter of fat. And the fat, well, that is gathered in the most polite word you've never wanted to know, the rendering. There is a cart. Wooden. Unvarnished. Creaking like a forgotten cello. The wheels crush something underfoot. Best not to look too closely. The candle master grunts beside you. He is missing several teeth and one toe. A chicken wanders by. You think it belongs to someone. Probably. The smell. Ah. Yes. Let's talk about that. The smell is layered. Not a single note but a symphony, composed without a conductor and performed in a theater that never closes its doors. There's the acidic tang of human waste, yes, tossed from windows and dancing its way down gutters. But more than that, there's meat. Old meat. The kind of meat that was once meat, then something else, and now possibly an idea more than a substance. You pass a bakery and momentarily think things might be okay. The warmth, the crusty scent of rising bread. But no, it is a trick. The wind shifts. And the tallow, beef or pig fat, depending on the weak slaughterhouse arrangements, returns with a vengeance. You breathe through your mouth. Then realize that was worse. Paris, for all its beauty, is baromatic. The sort of place where perfume isn't a luxury but a survival tactic. The nobility douses themselves in rose and civet. The poor douse themselves in hope. And the candle makers? They don't bother. The workshop appears like a squat ghost behind the butcher's stall. It has no sign. It needs none. Your nose already knows it. Inside, pots bubble. Not with soup. Soup would be a mercy. These pots hold tallow in various stages of surrender. You take your position near the molds. They are iron. Heavy. Each one holds the shape of 12 candles. They are dark with age and encrusted with tiny specks of wax that will never be removed, a fossil record of illumination. The candle master removes a lid. A thick fog of steam rises, smelling exactly like someone tried to boil an animal and forgot why. He nods. You know what that means. Time to dip. Dip. Lift. Twist. Cool. Dip again. The rhythm is oddly calming. Like breathing. Like the heartbeat of the city itself. A city lit not by electricity or gas, but by what could be gathered from butcher scraps and livestock leftovers. The light of Paris was built, quite literally, from the dead. You pour a ladleful of tallow into the mold. It hisses. Not like anger, more like exhaustion. as if even the fad is tired. The candle master hums a tune. You don't recognize it. You don't ask. Your hands are already slick with the waxy residue of the morning's work. Your shirt smells like boiled hen. Not in a good way. But you are warm. And you are useful. And perhaps, in some way, that is enough. By mid-morning, the streets outside begin to stir. Vendors shout. Horses clatter. Somewhere nearby, someone is probably inventing the croissant. But for now, you are immersed in a quieter world. A world of hot tallow and soft flame. A world where light is precious and earned. A world where the price of a single candle might mean a night's worth of reading or prayer, or simply not tripping on your way to the privy. A fly lands on your sleeve. You flick it off. It returns. It always does. You think of those who will burn your work tonight, the noblewoman writing letters to a distant lover, the monk reciting his evening prayers, the baker counting his meager earnings, the thief planning his next theft. All of them, bathed in your flame. Their stories illuminated by your labor. You imagine your candle's light reflecting in the eyes of strangers you will never meet. And though the city may smell like everything gone slightly wrong, it also breathes with life, messy, grimy, flickering life. You dip again. And again. The mold fills. You wipe your hands on a cloth already too dirty to bother. The master grunts approval. You try not to smile. Outside, Paris grows louder. But here, in this forgotten workshop, you are held in the quiet spell of repetition. Of ancient light made new. And all the while, the scent lingers. A mixture of soot, sweat, wax, and old bones. It clings to your hair. Your skin. Your soul. You will never forget it. But for now, you simply work. Steady. Calm. Repeating the movements passed down by hands long gone. Dip. Lift. Twist. Cool. The day is just beginning. And you are already fading into it. The street outside your candle shop isn't paved with cobblestone, not entirely. It's a mosaic of broken stone, mud, manure, and crushed dreams. Water runs through it, but not the clean kind. More of a slurry, half rain, half everything else. It finds its way between your boots, soaking the frayed leather and seeping up your socks like a slow regret. You step outside with the candle master. He's inspecting a shipment of fat, delivered by a boy who's more bone than muscle. The barrel is unmarked, of course. No one labels, contents, rancid sheep drippings. But your nose, always 2 steps ahead, confirms the suspicion. It's going to be a pungent week. The boy is paid with a copper coin and a slap on the shoulder. He scurries away, leaving behind a faint odor of wet wool and desperate ambition. You take a breath, which you instantly regret, and glance up at the sky. Gray. Not dramatic, not poetic. Just gray. The kind of sky that forgets what it meant to be weather. Somewhere above it, the sun exists. But Paris in February doesn't give you much hope. A woman passes by, balancing a bundle of rags on her head. Or perhaps it's laundry. Or perhaps the line between the two has simply blurred. She nods at you. You nod back. Civility, like soap, is rare but not extinct. The smell she trails behind is complex. Smoke, cabbage, something pickled, something boiled. You're getting better at naming these things. You're starting to smell in layers. Like a sommelier, but for decay. You walk with the master toward the church. Not for prayer. The church has a contract. They require candles in bulk. Candles for the altar. Candles for confession. Candles to ensure that even in the darkest sins, there is at least the illusion of light. The priest who greets you has soft hands and hard eyes. He inspects the candles as though they were relics. One by one, he runs his fingers along their length. Nods. Grunts. Approves. The deal is made. As payment, the master receives coin. You receive a chunk of coarse bread and the opportunity to stand near the warm stone hearth in the vestry. A fire crackles, wood smoke, real and rich. It's the first scent in days that doesn't feel like an accusation. You eat. Slowly. Carefully. The crust cuts your gums a little, but you savor it. Not because it's good, but because it isn't tallow. The master speaks with the priest in hushed tones. Something about city permits. Something about tariffs. Something about Greece. You let the conversation wash over you like river water, probably full of parasites, but occasionally refreshing. You drift toward the back of the church. There, in the shadows, stands a row of unlit candles. Fat, solemn, proud. You know that some of them were yours. Your hands shaped them. Your patience gave them form. They will burn for a wedding, or a funeral, or a holy day that no one remembers the meaning of. One has begun to melt from the heat of the nearby fire. A thin line of wax snakes down its side like a teardrop from an eye that cannot close. You're pulled away by the master. He doesn't speak, only gestures. You follow him back outside, where the city has begun to hum louder. Horses clatter past. A dog barks once and regrets it. Somewhere, a child cries without urgency, the way children do when hunger is a habit, not a surprise. You return to the workshop just in time for the afternoon rendering. The pod is open. The smell is now aggressive. It lunges at you. Greasy. Sharp. Meaty in a way that meat shouldn't be. You wipe your nose on your sleeve, but it does nothing. The scent isn't in your nose anymore. It's in your bones. The master begins to stir the pot with a wooden paddle stained black from years of service. The fat bubbles like a swamp remembering something terrible. You take your place at the cooling table. The wax poured earlier has hardened. You carefully twist the candles free from their molds. They come out with a faint popping sound, like old joints cracking in the cold. Each candle is slightly imperfect. A bump. A lean. A slight discoloration. But they are beautiful. Not in the way roses are beautiful. More in the way scars are beautiful, proof that something endured. You line them up in rows. Dozens. Then hundreds. A small army of flame yet to be born. The master hums again. The same tune. You begin to wonder if it's a memory or a warning. The light in the workshop fades early. The small windows are cloudy with soot. The shadows stretch. The pot still bubbles, though the fat has turned the shade you refuse to name. You light a single candle. One of your own. Just to test it. The flame flickers, then settles. The room glows. Then for a moment, you are surrounded by something close to silence. A silence filled not with the absence of noise, but with presence. The quiet dignity of work. The echo of countless hands doing the same thing you are doing now, in the same place, for the same reason, to bring light into dark places, even if it means walking through the stink to get there. You sit on the edge of a wooden crate. Your muscles ache. Your eyes itch. But the flame calms you. It dances for no one. It dances anyway. Paris continues to groan outside. But here, inside the candle maker's sanctuary of stink and wax, time slows. The master snores gently in the corner. You let your head rest against the cold stone wall. You close your eyes. Not for long. Just a moment. And in that moment, all the smells blur. Wax, tallow, rain, breath, bread, ash, sweat, sorrow. Paris, in its full perfume. You breathe it in. And you begin to disappear. You awake not to a bell, nor a rooster, nor even a tender kiss of dawn. No, it is the cold that wakes you. It travels in through the cracked window like a jealous ghost, curling around your neck and whispering, gently, you forgot to stoke the fire. The candle from the night before has burned itself into a puddle. A misshapen ring of wax now rests on the tabletop, encircling a blackened wick like a tiny grave. You touch it. It's cool. And strangely soft. It smells, faintly, of boiled beef and burnt hope. The master is already gone. Or perhaps he was never there. His blanket lies crumpled like a bad memory. You stand. Slowly. Each joint makes itself known, one complaint at a time. The air is thick with the smell of cooling tallow, stale breath, and with smoke that never found its way out. You open the workshop door to a sound. Not a pleasant one. It's the morning shift from the tannery, loud men with louder aprons dragging buckets of something best left undescribed. They pass by the candle shop without a glance, their boots leaving wet tracks that seem to smoke slightly in the cool air. You wonder, idly, what they think of your smell. And then you realize, no one thinks about smell in Paris. It's simply there. Like cobblestone. Or regret. The master returns with a bundle of reeds. Candle wicks. You nod, he grunts, and the morning's work begins again. Today is special, though. Today, you're going to deliver candles to a client who doesn't wear robes or speak Latin. Today, you're heading to a house of nobility. Or what passes for nobility in this city of powdered wigs and hollow titles. You pack the candles carefully. The good ones. The straightest, cleanest, least offensive in odor. Which is to say, only mildly offensive. You wrap them in cloth. Place them in a box. Then hoist the box onto your shoulder like a humble Sisyphus with slightly more wax. The streets of Paris offer no help. They are not designed for carrying things. They are designed, you suspect, by accident. A network of half-decided alleys, tilted doors, and drains that go nowhere. You pass a butcher. He's shouting something about kidneys. You keep walking. A group of children runs past you, laughing. One of them coughs violently into his sleeve. The others ignore it. You do too. The noble house is tall. Thin. Balancing on its own elegance like an aging ballerina. You knock on the heavy door. A servant opens it, not with welcome, but with suspicion. Until he sees the candles. Ah. Yes. Candle boy. Come in. The floor is marble. Actual marble. It echoes beneath your boots. Someone has sprinkled petals on the steps. Or maybe they just fell there, confused by their surroundings. The parlor smells different. It smells of lavender, cloves, honey, and under it all, faintly, decay. Hidden, but present. As if the house itself is wearing perfume to cover something older. You place the candles on a polished sideboard. The lady of the house appears, a vision in silk and powdered despair. She smiles without teeth. Not because she lacks them, but because smiling properly is unfashionable. She compliments the candles. Says the wax is smooth. Asks, almost too casually, whether you use whale oil or sheep fat. You lie, politely. Beef, my lady. Fresh. From the finest sources. She nods. As though this is a thing that matters to her. You glance around the room. Velvet drapes. Gilded mirrors. A small harp no one has touched in years. It is beautiful. And suffocating. She hands you a coin. Then another. Then a third, smaller one, for the boy, she says. As though you are a dog. You thank her, bow, and exit. Quickly. But not before noticing that one of your candles is already lit. Burning beside a bowl of withered fruit, reflected endlessly in the mirror behind it. Outside, the air is less perfumed. More Parisian. You inhale. It's awful. And it's real. You pass a man selling onions. Another selling soap. One of them is a liar. Back at the workshop, the master is asleep in his chair. Again. You place the coins on the table. He doesn't open his eyes. He simply says, "Melt the scraps." The scrap bucket is full. Misshapen ends, broken wicks, candles that were too crooked even for confessionals. You gather them. Feed them to the melting pot. They hiss. The wax accepts them, slowly. Like a bog swallowing boots. You stir. Not out of need, but out of habit. The smell returns, warm, fatty, ancient. You wonder how long this scent will cling to you. Days? Years? Forever. You remember a girl from the market. She once told you that you smelled like soup left in the sun. You had smiled. It was the nicest thing anyone had said to you that week. The sun is sinking now. Though the light doesn't change much in this part of town. Day and night are separated mostly by the quality of the noise. You light another candle. Just one. You set it beside the mold rack. The flame flutters, then holds. You sit again. Against the wall. And let your head tilt back. The room smells like work. Like grease. Like fire. It smells like Paris. And as your eyes begin to drift, the city outside continues to breathe, slowly, strangely, like a beast too large to ever see in full. You exhale. And you begin to disappear again. The candle is nearly gone. Just a stub now, leaning against the iron holder like a drunk aristocrat against a fence post. You watch the flame dance in silence. Not brightly. Not boldly. But like it knows it isn't meant to last. Outside, the city groans in its sleep. Not loud, more like a sigh that never ends. Somewhere, a door slams. Somewhere, someone curses. And somewhere, someone is born into the same stink you woke up to. You stretch your legs. The floor is cold. Not shocking. Just persistent. It feels like it's always been that way. Like the stone has absorbed the memories of every step taken across it, every apprentice's hesitation, every master's tired shuffle. The pot is still warm. You approach it without thinking, the way someone might walk to a fireplace without expecting warmth, just familiarity. The wax has formed a thick skin on top, like pudding that no one asked for. You stir it gently. It resists. Then yields. The master grunts from his chair. Still half asleep. He scratches something, his chin, perhaps. Or his thoughts. Then says, "We need more wicks." You nod. Because of course you do. You always do. The wick seller is only a few streets away, but streets in Paris are not measured in distance. They are measured in smells, in puddles, in surprises both anatomical and philosophical. You step out, basket in hand. The air is colder now. Less forgiving. A wet wind tugs at your collar. You pass the usual landmarks, the tailor who never seems to tailor, the tavern that smells like spilled vinegar and last year's arguments, the woman who always knits but never wears what she knits. The wick seller is older than bread. His shop smells like dust, lavender, and a secret he hasn't told anyone in 30 years. You hand him your coins. He gives you a bundle wrapped in paper that was used once, maybe twice. The paper whispers when you touch it. "Careful," he says, "they're thinner than last week." You nod. You say thank you. You both know neither of you means it. Back outside, you take a shortcut. Which is to say, a longer route that feels braver. You cut through a side alley. Narrow. Damp. Quiet. Too quiet. There is a man slumped against a barrel. Not moving. His hat has fallen beside him like a loyal dog. His breath fogs the air, barely. He groans. You keep walking. You are not unkind. Just practiced. Paris teaches you that. The art of seeing without staring. Of caring without helping. Of stepping over without stepping on. As you pass the bakery, a warm wave of scent slaps you across the nose. Flour, yeast, butter. You slow your steps. Just to feel something pleasant, if only for 5 seconds. But of course, it doesn't last. A gust of wind brings the smell of the river. Or something pretending to be the river. It clings to your sleeves like guilt. When you return, the master is gone. Out on some errand. Or perhaps just vanished into the folds of the day. You place the bundle of wicks beside the molds. They are, indeed, thinner. Fragile, almost. Like threads pulled from an old woman's shawl. You sit. For a moment. Just a moment. The workshop creaks around you. Not in protest. More like an old man clearing his throat. You watch a spider descend from the ceiling. Slowly. Deliberately. It stops mid-air, suspended by a thread far more reliable than your new wicks. You exhale. There is a smell. A new one. Not bad. Not good. Just confusing. You sniff. You follow. It's coming from the back room. The one the master rarely lets you into. The storage. Or so he says. You step toward it. Slowly. Like a dream. The door is unlocked. You open it. The room is dark, of course. You light a candle. Just a stop. Just enough. And then you see it. Rows and rows of old molds. Covered in cloth. Bundles of wicks so fine they look like hair. Jars of wax labeled with dates older than you. Older than the master, maybe. And in the center, a candle. One single candle. Tall. Perfect. White as snow that has never met the ground. You step closer. It smells like nothing. Absolutely nothing. Which, in Paris, is a miracle. You reach for it. Then stop. There is a note. Handwritten. The ink faded. The letters curled like candle smoke. It says, for the day the city truly sleeps. You back away. You do not take it. Some things are not meant to burn. You close the door. Carefully. The workshop welcomes you back with its familiar bouquet of half-rendered tallow and wet stone. You feel oddly comforted. You sit again. The spider has reached the floor now. It pauses beside your boot. Then turns. Climbs back up. You light another candle. One of your own. Slightly crooked. A little lumpy. But alive. The flame catches. It dances. You stare at it. And you begin to disappear again. Not quickly. Not all at once. But like a scent, fading from memory. There is a moment just before twilight when the city seems to pause. Not stop, Paris never stops, but hesitates, like someone at the top of a staircase trying to remember why they climbed it. That's the hour you find yourself in now. The streets are still, but not quiet. You can hear the soft dragging of a broom somewhere in the distance, a cart being pulled over uneven cobblestones, the slow creak of a shutter that never quite shuts. The light is fading. It's not a dramatic sunset, there is no orange blaze, no golden hour. Just a slow washing away of the day's grime into something a little softer, a little grayer. And with it, the city's scent begins to shift. The rot retreats slightly into corners, and something almost tolerable hangs in the air, the perfume of cooling stone, tired wood, and smoke from fires that will never be warm enough. You are sweeping the wax shavings into a dull pile near the door, not because you care, but because the master says it must be done. The broom is older than you, shedding bristles with every pass like an animal that knows its time is nearly up. You don't complain. Complaining would require more energy than sweeping, and besides, what's the point? In Paris, no one sweeps to clean. They sweep to avoid drowning in what's already there. The candle molds are cooling behind you. Earlier, you poured too quickly and made a mess. One of the candles cracked down the middle like an old bone. The master said nothing, but his silence was heavier than scolding. You will remake it tomorrow. Maybe. Or not. These are the small failures no one bothers to fix. Outside, a neighbor yells at his dog. The dog barks in protest. Then silence. You imagine they have come to an agreement. You lean on the broom and look toward the window. It is too dirty to see clearly, so instead you watch the grime itself. Layers of soot, fingerprints, and candle smoke slowly drawing a map of time. You wonder how old some of those smudges are. You wonder if anyone will ever notice them. Probably not. Most of Paris is built on things no one wants to notice. The master enters with a loaf of bread under his arm and a look that suggests the baker was stingy again. He rips the bread in half and hands you the smaller piece. It's hard. Possibly pre-revolutionary. Still, you bite into it. The crust is sharp, the inside dry, but it's food. You chew slowly. Bread in Paris is never about flavor. It's about survival, and sometimes about chewing long enough to forget the smell of boiling fat in your nose. After the bread, the master surprises you by lighting one of your candles and placing it in the center of the table. You don't speak. Neither does he. The flame wobbles for a moment, as if unsure whether to stay, then steadies into a low, constant burn. The light doesn't fill the room, no candle could. But it finds the corners, softens the edges. It makes the stains on the walls look almost intentional. You stare at the flame. The master stares at you. Then he says, "Not bad." That is the highest praise you will ever receive. It tastes better than the bread. Later, you are sent to deliver candles to the apothecary. This is not a favorite task. The apothecary smells worse than your shop, and that is saying something. But business is business, and their coin is always clean, even if nothing else is. You wrap the candles in oilcloth and set out. The streets are darker now. Not night, but not day. Just that in-between space where shadows start whispering to each other and you wonder if maybe you've walked this road before in a dream. Or a nightmare. The apothecary's shop is a curious thing. Wedged between a wine cellar and a building that leans as though eavesdropping, it seems more grown than built. The door is warped, the sign unreadable, but the smell finds you before the threshold, a violent mixture of dried herbs, rotting roots, vinegar, and secrets. You enter. Slowly. Always slowly. The air inside is thick, as if the room itself is stewing. Jars line the shelves, filled with floating things, eyes, perhaps. Or berries. Or both. The apothecary does not greet you. He never does. He simply gestures to the counter and continues grinding something into powder with a stone that looks older than sin. You place the candles down. He inspects them with the tenderness of a man choosing onions at a market. Then, finally, he nods and drops a small pouch onto the table. It clinks. Coins, most likely. You don't count them. You just leave. Outside, the air, though still foul, feels lighter. The apothecary's door closes behind you with a sound like a held breath being let go. Back at the workshop, the master is snoring gently in his chair, one shoe off, mouth open, holding a piece of wax like a child clutching a toy. You don't wake him. There's no reason to. You sit on the floor, near the pot, which has gone cold. You touch it. It's hard now. Waxy. The surface is cracked like the skin of an old fruit. You think about scraping it, reheating it, trying again. But you don't. Instead, you light another candle. Just to see. Just to feel the glow. The flame is steady. It doesn't flicker. It just burns. You lean back against the wall and let the warmth hit your face. Outside, a bell tolls somewhere in the distance. Not midnight. Not yet. But late enough that the city begins to change shape. The drunks emerge. The lovers hide. The guards light their lanterns and pretend to care. You sit there, in your flickering silence, thinking about smells. About how everything in Paris is scented, even the darkness. You think about the noblewoman's parlor and its artificial sweetness, about the apothecary's earthy violence, about the soft sweetness of candle wax before it curdles in the pot. You think about how some smells lie, and others confess. The city is full of both. But your candles, your poor, lumpy, cracked candles, they always tell the truth. Even when they don't smell like it. You close your eyes. Just for a minute. Just until the master wakes. The wax cools. The flame dances. The room grows still. And slowly, you begin to disappear again. Not into sleep. Not quite. But into something quieter than wakefulness. Something softer than memory. A place that smells faintly, of nothing at all. The fire has long since died, though the stone hearth still gives off a faint breath of warmth, like a cat pretending not to miss you. You wake slowly, but not fully. Just enough to shift your weight and feel the cold floor underneath your spine. The candle near your head has melted halfway down its stick, the wax pooling in a perfect oval on the old wooden shelf beside it. It doesn't drip. It simply rests there, like a thought you've decided not to finish. Somewhere outside, a man is singing. Not well. Not loud. Just enough for the sound to reach you through the wall. His song has no tune, and his words fall apart before they find meaning. But still, he sings. You wonder if he's drunk or just lonely. Or both. In Paris, those two are often indistinguishable. You sit up. The air feels different tonight. Still heavy. Still wet. But quieter. The kind of quiet that's not peaceful, just empty. You rub your eyes. Your hands smell like candle wax and vinegar. You've long since stopped noticing it, but sometimes, in moments like this, you're reminded. Your skin remembers even when your mind forgets. You stand and look around the workshop. It's not large. Not beautiful. But it holds everything you know. A workbench scarred with burn marks. A row of cooling racks stained with old wax. A corner where rags go to die. And, of course, the pot, always the pot, dark and wide, full of something between liquid and memory. The master isn't here. Again. You assume he's in one of his places. Possibly the tavern. Possibly asleep under the stairs. It doesn't matter. The work doesn't stop when he disappears. The candles don't care who's holding the ladle. You begin your ritual. Not because anyone told you to, but because your body has learned the rhythm. The hands remember even when the clock forgets. You cut the wicks. Carefully. Each one must be long enough to burn, short enough not to betray you. You dip them in wax from the previous day, the good wax, the kind that smells only slightly of regret. As you dip, your thoughts wander. Not far. Just to the streets outside. To the people lighting your candles, people you'll never know. A baker folding dough by yellow light. A widow counting coins. A child pretending to read. Each of them touched by your hands, though they'll never see your face. You wonder what they smell when they light the flame. Do they notice the beef tallow? The faint echo of the butcher's block? Or do they only see the glow and call it beauty? You don't know. You'll never know. The wax hardens on your fingers. You peel it away like old skin. There's a certain satisfaction in it, a tiny shedding. A quiet becoming. You finish the first batch just as the wind outside changes. It whistles through the cracks in the window frame, carrying with it a new perfume, wet ash, boiled turnips, and something vaguely metallic. Rain, maybe. Or blood. The city offers both in equal measure. You go to the door. You don't open it, just place your ear against the wood. You hear wheels on stone. Hooves. Voices too tired to argue. Paris is still moving. It never stops. But sometimes it slows just enough for you to notice how exhausted it is. You return to your seat near the flame. The candle is almost gone now. You tilt it gently, letting the last of the wax pour onto the edge of the table. It runs in a lazy line, then hardens before it can fall. It looks like a frozen tear. You think, briefly, about your family. Not because you miss them, but because the silence invites them in. Your mother's hands, always red from scrubbing. Your father's boots, always wet. You wonder if they'd recognize you now, covered in wax and soot and silence. You hope not. You'd rather be forgotten than pitied. Your stomach growls. It's not hungry, exactly. Just reminding you that it's still there. You reach under the bench and find a crust of bread wrapped in a rag. It's hard. Possibly older than the king. But you chew anyway. Slowly. The taste is sour, the texture punishing, but it's something. And sometimes, something is enough. You look again at your candles. Lined up like soldiers waiting to be cold. Some are perfect. Others lean slightly, their forms slumped like shoulders after bad news. You don't fix them. You just nod. They're good enough. Perfection is a luxury Paris stopped believing in long ago. Outside, the rain finally starts. Soft at first. Then heavier. It hits the stone with a sound like nails on a coffin, dull, deliberate, final. You listen. Not because it's beautiful, but because it's true. You light another candle. Just to see it. Just to feel something burn. The flame is small, but defiant. It flickers. Then steadies. You watch it, and for a moment, you feel warm. Not on your skin. But somewhere deeper. You breathe in. You breathe out. The rain continues. The wax cools. Then slowly, gently, as the candle's flame leans toward sleep. So do you. You wake again, though you hadn't meant to sleep. Not really. You hadn't even noticed your eyes had closed. But there it is, the candle stub burned all the way down, leaving only a soft smear of wax on the stone. The room is dark now. Dark in the way only candlelit places can become, a darkness that feels like it's remembering something. You sit up slowly. Your neck aches. Your legs have gone to sleep without you. Somewhere deep in your back, a tiny voice mutters a complaint you choose to ignore. The workshop smells different now. Not better. Not worse. Just changed. The lingering heat of the day has vanished, replaced by the chill of damp stone and old tallow. It clings to your shirt, your hands, the back of your throat. You've become part of it, in a way. Not just a boy in a shop, but a thread in the smell itself. It lives in you now, quiet and unshakable. You stand and stretch, your arms brushing the low ceiling beam. A spider, the same one, maybe, lowers itself in front of your face, then climbs back into the shadows. You nod at it like an old friend and walk to the window. You wipe a small circle in the soot-streaked pane with the edge of your sleeve. The city beyond looks softer in the rain. The dirt is still there, of course, but now it glistens. The puddles reflect the candlelight from behind the closed shutters of other homes. And for a moment, just a moment, Paris doesn't look quite so cruel. You think about what's behind those shutters. A family hunched over a small loaf of bread. a seamstress mending clothes by a stub of wax, a man counting debts he can never repay, and somewhere, maybe, a young girl brushing her hair by the glow of a candle you poured with your own hands. You wonder if she notices the way it smells, if she crinkles her nose or breathes it in like it's something real. You turn away from the window. The master still hasn't returned. Or maybe he has and left again. There's a cold crust of cheese on the table, wrapped in paper that once advertised a puppet show. You eat it slowly. It tastes like disappointment, but with a soft edge. Tonight is quiet. Quieter than most. Even the rats in the wall seem to be resting. The pot sits cold and still, its surface wax now thick and matte, like frozen milk. You run a finger across it and draw a small line, a curve, nothing more. It feels oddly intimate, as though you've signed your name to something no one else will ever see. You sit on the stool and reach for another wick. Your fingers move slowly now, not from fatigue, but from care. There's no rush. The city will still be broken in the morning. The candles will still be needed. The smell will still be here. You think about light. About what it means to make something that burns. Something that, for a few hours at least, fights back the darkness. It's a strange kind of power. Quiet. Brief. But power nonetheless. And it's yours. At least for now. A memory surfaces. Not a full one, just the edges. You and your brother, once. Long ago. Sneaking a candle into the attic and pretending you were kings. You'd lit it and watched your shadows grow large on the walls, dancing like giants. He'd laughed. You hadn't heard him laugh like that in years. You wonder where he is now. Or if he's still lighting anything at all. The stool creaks beneath you as you lean forward to light another wick. The flame catches easily. It glows gently in the gloom, painting the room in soft, slow-moving gold. The shadows stretch, yawn, and settle in their corners. You whisper something to yourself. You don't know what it was. A word, maybe. Or a wish. It doesn't matter. The wind outside has shifted. It whistles through the gaps in the shutter like a tired tune. The rain has softened to a mist. Paris exhales again. You sit very still now. Listening. Not for sounds, but for feelings. For the way the wax smells when it cools. For the way the flame breathes. For the hush in the corners that wasn't there before. The master won't return tonight. You know this. You don't mind. The shop is yours in this hour. The silence wraps itself around your shoulders like a threadbare blanket. Not warm. Not soft. But enough. You let your head rest back against the wall. You close your eyes. You keep them closed. The candle burns. The rain falls. The city stirs in its sleep. And you, little candle maker, begin to disappear again. Not lost. Not gone. Just faded. Like a scent you can't quite place. There's a smell in the air that wasn't there before. It's faint, but sharp. Like something left on the fire too long. You open your eyes slowly and notice that the candle has burned down nearly to the wood. The wick curls inward, blackened and stubborn, still holding its little flame with the last of its pride. You sit up and look around. Nothing is different, not exactly. And yet, everything is. The workshop has shifted again, not its walls or tables, but its mood. The room feels heavier, more thoughtful, like a person sitting quietly with a secret they aren't ready to tell. You stand and stretch your arms overhead. The wax under your nails flakes off in tiny curls. There's a crack in the floor you hadn't noticed before, winding like a river between the stones. You stare at it a moment, then look away. Paris is full of cracks. It's not the kind of city that's ever truly whole. You walk to the table and pour a small ladle of wax from the earlier pot, just enough for a single mold. The wax pours slowly, thick and slow like old honey. You try not to breathe through your nose. The smell is still strong, like boiled bones and something vaguely sweet. But you've long stopped reacting. It's a scent that lives on your clothes now, on your pillow, in the creases of your skin. You are part of it. You sit and wait for the wax to cool. The air in the room is still. Outside, the city has grown quieter. Not peaceful, exactly, but quiet. Like a man sitting in a chair after a long day, shoes off, staring at a wall. You can hear distant footsteps now and then, hurried, anxious. A dog barks once, then is silent. Somewhere far off, a bell rings 12 times, slowly, deliberately. Midnight. Or close enough. You think about all the candles burning right now across the city. The ones in grand halls with marble floors and wine in silver cups. The ones in alleyways and attics, burning low over books, or letters, or nothing at all. The ones flickering near a dying bed. The ones lighting the way for someone who doesn't want to go home. And you wonder, how many of those flames are yours? You pick up a finished candle and run your thumb along the side. It's not perfect. It leans slightly, and there's a little bubble in the base. But it's beautiful in its own way. Not because it's flawless, because it will burn anyway. It will give what it has, and then it will vanish. You think that's what most people do, too. Give what they have. Then disappear. You lean back and let your head rest on the cold wall behind you. You don't want to sleep, but your body does. Your shoulders are heavy. Your legs ache. You close your eyes, not to sleep, but to rest. Just for a minute. Maybe two. In the dark behind your eyes, memories float up like wax in warm water. You see the old bridge where you once dropped a candle into the river just to watch it float. You see the old woman who used to buy one every Sunday and call you her little lamplighter. You remember the time you burned your fingers and didn't cry until the master looked away. And you remember the smell, always the smell. Wet wood, scorched wick, and fat that's been cooked twice too long. You open your eyes again. The candle is still burning. Barely. You pick up your knife and begin trimming another wick, slowly, carefully. You hum to yourself. A tune without a name. Something your mother might have sung. Or maybe something you invented just to keep your hands moving. The blade slips once and cuts your finger, just a nick. You put it to your mouth. The taste is metallic, sharp. You don't flinch. The wax has taught you what pain feels like in small, acceptable amounts. You light the trimmed wick. A new flame rises. It's brighter than you expect. It dances a little, casting shadows that stretch across the wall like ghosts with nowhere else to go. You watch them move. Then settle. Then vanish. There's comfort in it, somehow. You think about the other apprentices. The ones who came before you. The ones who left. Some disappeared into better trades, tailoring, maybe, or glasswork. Others vanished into the city, swallowed by drink or hunger or worse. But you're still here. Still dipping, still trimming, still breathing in the same impossible air. You wonder what that means. If it means anything at all. The new candle flickers. You tilt your head, watching the wax start to drip down the side. You follow it with your eyes, the slow descent, the way it cools mid-fall, hardening into tiny ridges like frozen tears. You reach out and touch the base of the candle, feeling the faint warmth. You wonder if, when you are older, you will still remember the feeling of wax just before it becomes solid. Or the sound of a cooling pot. Or the way the shop smells just before dawn. Outside, the wind has picked up. It whispers under the door, rustling old papers and making the shutters shudder softly. You pull your coat tighter around you. The candle flame bends with the wind, then straightens. You smile at it. You whisper to it. Just a small word. Stay. The night continues. Unbothered. You are small inside it. But not alone. There are others, thousands of others, sitting in their own silence. Holding their own flame. Breathing in the same air. Trying, like you, to make it to morning. You lean back again. Eyes open. Watching the candle. Listening to the room. The wax. The wind. The world. And gently, slowly, beautifully, you begin to disappear again. The wind slips through the cracks again, thinner this time. Like it's grown weary of visiting you. It snakes along the floor and wraps around your ankles, a cold reminder that the world outside the walls is still turning. You don't move. You just sit there, back against the wall, legs stretched out toward the candle's faint glow. The wax pool at its base is growing. You watch it silently, as though it might tell you something, maybe a secret. Maybe a truth you've forgotten. You close your eyes for a breath. Just a breath. But in that moment, something shifts in the room. It's not the candlelight. Not the air. It's you. A small part of you that loosens, like a button that finally pops off a worn-out coat. You feel your thoughts slow down, one by one. Each memory crawling into its corner. Each worry slipping through a crack in the floorboards. All that remains is the warmth on your cheeks and the cold against your back. You're floating between the two, like wax not yet solid, not yet liquid, just suspended. The master's chair is still empty. His blanket is folded this time. Which means he came back and left again, like a tide you didn't hear. You look at it, the old wall, thin at the edges, spotted with something that might be wax or might be something else. You wonder if he ever sleeps through the night, or if, like you, he just rests in pieces. You rise slowly and step toward the pot. It's cold again. The wax inside is pale and firm, like soap left too long in a drawer. You dip your hand in gently, let your fingers rest on its surface. It doesn't resist. You press a little, and it yields just enough to feel alive. You don't know why you do this. Maybe to prove you're still here. That something in this room still responds to touch. A creak from upstairs breaks the silence. Not footsteps. Just a house stretching its bones. You glance up, half expecting to see something. But there's nothing. Just the wooden beams, darkened by years of smoke and neglect. They hang there like a warning you can't read. You return to the workbench and sit. Your hands move without instruction. They cut, they trim, they shape. You prepare another batch of candles, though no one asked you to. Though you don't even know if they'll be sold. But the work is comfort now. A slow prayer you can repeat with your fingers. You light one. The wick catches, and the flame dances for a moment before settling into its usual hum. You lean in and watch it flicker. It's strange how something so small can push back the dark. Not all of it. Not by much. But just enough. You let your face hover near it, let the warmth touch your skin. It reminds you of being held, a feeling you haven't had in years, and barely remember, but recognize anyway. Outside, a cart rolls past. You hear the clatter of wheels and the slosh of something wet inside. A man coughs. Then silence. Then the rain again, just a mist now, kissing the stone like it forgives it. You wonder what time it is. Not because it matters, but because time feels softer in the dark. Like it stretches differently when no one is watching. You look toward the corner where the shop's old clock once hung, but it's gone now. Removed. Sold. Or maybe it just stopped ticking and no one bothered to wind it again. In this place, the candles are the only time you trust. You light another one. Just to see the flame join its brother. The light doubles, but still feels small. Like two voices whispering in a cave. But they keep speaking anyway. You pull your knees up to your chest and rest your chin there. The candlelight paints the room in thin amber. Every surface glows like it remembers something. Even the wax drippings look like relics. The stains on the wall seem to shimmer. You feel the stillness settle into you, warm and cold at the same time. And in that flickering hush, you begin to think of the people who once stood where you're sitting. Apprentices before you. Boys and girls long gone. Did they sit here at night, thinking the same thoughts? Watching the wax harden? Breathing in the same awful, comforting scent? You imagine them, all of them, layered like wax upon wax, memory upon memory, an invisible line of candle makers, all tired, all quiet, all hoping for light. The rain outside deepens again. Not loud. Just steady. You imagine it cleaning the streets, though you know better. Nothing in Paris gets cleaned. It just gets wetter. You picture the gutters overflowing, rats skittering from doorway to doorway. You see a woman shielding her candle with her hand as she walks, protecting the flame like it's the last thing she owns. Maybe it is. You rest your head against your knees and close your eyes again. Not because you want to sleep. You're not sure you do. But because the darkness behind your eyelids is warmer than the room. The candle scent has softened. Less fat now. More smoke. A quiet, ashy sweetness that smells like the end of something. You let yourself drift. Not to dreams, not yet. Just to stillness. The kind that exists only when there's nothing left to do. The kind that wraps around you without asking. The wax cools in the molds. The flame holds steady. The workshop breathes in silence. And you, with your crooked hands and smoke in your lungs, you begin to disappear again. Not because you're fading, but because you've become part of the light. The candle in front of you is burning unevenly now. One side melting faster than the other, sending a slow river of wax down the iron holder, pooling on the edge of the table like it's thinking about leaping, but not quite brave enough. You watch it without blinking. Not because it's beautiful, though it is, but because there's nothing else to look at. The room is the same. The walls still cracked. The ceiling still low. But in this hour, when the air itself feels thinner, everything seems to move more slowly. Even the shadows hesitate. You shift your weight slightly, careful not to knock anything over. You've done that before, once, years ago, kicked a bucket of hot wax by accident. It scalded your leg. The master didn't speak for 2 days. Not out of anger, but disappointment. Which, as you learned, is somehow worse. You still have the scar. A pale, uneven oval just above your ankle. You touch it sometimes when you're alone. Not because it hurts, but because it reminds you that you're still solid. You reach for another wick, your fingers finding the thin cord in the dark by instinct. You dip it into the pot. The wax is barely warm now, just soft enough to coat. You let it rest, then lift, then set it on the rack. The rhythm comforts you. It always has. There's something calming about the repetition. Something quieting. Like prayer, but for people who stopped believing in prayers. You remember once, long ago, someone asked you if you ever get tired of the smell. You laughed. You hadn't meant to. It just slipped out. Because tired isn't the right word. The scent isn't something you experience anymore, it's something you are. It lives in your shirt. In your hands. Behind your ears. Even when you scrub, it stays. People on the street don't comment anymore. They just give you space. You stand and stretch your arms above your head. A sharp pop echoes from your back. The chair creaks as you leave it behind. You walk to the window again. You don't know why. There's nothing new to see. The rain has stopped, though the street glistens like a wet wound. A drunk is sleeping under the awning across the alley, curled like a child, his shoes missing. A candle flickers on a windowsill 2 stories up. You can just make it out, a tiny square of gold in a sea of black. Someone else is awake. Or afraid. Or both. You think of your mother again. Not the way she looked, you've forgotten her face, but the way she moved. The sound of her footsteps across a wooden floor. The way she used to whisper your name like it was a secret too precious for daylight. You wonder if she ever thought you'd end up here, in a room that smells like melted beef and forgotten ambition. You wonder if she'd be proud. You hope she would. You think maybe she would. Back at the table, the candle has gone out. The wick is just a smoking curl of black thread. You don't light another one yet. You let the darkness settle. Let it take its place. You sit in it, not fighting. The workshop creaks around you. You close your eyes. Just to listen. Not to the city, you've stopped listening to the city. But to the room itself. The breath of the wax cooling. The soft crackle of wood adjusting. The tiny, barely audible hum in your ears that reminds you you're still here. You light another candle. Slowly. Reverently. The match flares too brightly for a second. You squint. Then the flame shrinks, catches, and the light returns. You hold your hand near it. Not touching, just close enough to feel its warmth. It reminds you of something. You don't know what. But it's something old. Something kind. You begin trimming another set of wicks. They lie in a row like tiny bones, neat and fragile. You work slowly, your fingers careful, your breath soft. There's no rush. No one is waiting. No one is watching. Just the walls. Just the silence. The master will return in the morning. Or he won't. Either way, the candles will be made. The shop will go on. Paris doesn't care if you're tired. Paris doesn't care if your fingers bleed. It only asks that you keep the light burning. You light another candle, just to see them together. Free now. Their flames sway in time, like dancers moving to a tune too quiet to hear. The shadows behind them lean and stretch, not threatening, just curious. You stare at the flames until they blur, until your eyes water, until everything softens again. Your head lowers slowly, resting on your folded arms. You don't mean to sleep. You never do. But the warmth is gentle, and the night is long, and the city is quieter than usual. So you close your eyes. And for a while, there is no wax, no smoke, no smell. Just the gentle hum of stillness. And in that stillness, you begin to disappear once more. One breath at a time. The candle has burned itself down again, but you don't notice at first. The room is dark, yes, but it's the sort of darkness that feels like a coat you've been wearing for hours, warm in places, tight in others, but familiar enough that you don't think to take it off. You've been sitting with your chin tucked into your arm, not quite asleep, but not truly here either. The smell of wax hangs around you like steam from an old kettle, mingling with the sense of soot, dust, and the faintest trace of vinegar that always seems to live in the floorboards. You shift slightly, your back pressing against the cold wall, and you listen, not for anything in particular, just to confirm the city still exists beyond the wood and stone. Outside, there is a sound like cloth being dragged across cobblestone. You imagine it's a cart, half-covered, pulled by a tired horse who doesn't know or care what it carries. Maybe barrels. Maybe bodies. Maybe onions. It's never the same, and always the same. You don't move. There's no need. You're not waiting for anything. You are simply here, sitting in the same room, in the same air, with the same silence. You eventually reach for the matchbox without looking. The wood is splintered at the corners, soft from use. You strike one, and the light flares too brightly for your tired eyes. You wince. But then it fades to a warm, manageable glow, and you light a new candle with the tip. The wick hisses slightly as it accepts the flame, like it has something to say but changes its mind. You hold the candle for a moment before setting it down, watching the light settle, steady itself, then begin its quiet dance across the walls. You realize your hands are trembling slightly, not from fear or cold, but from something in between, that deep exhaustion that doesn't feel urgent, just prominent. You rub them together and look at your fingers. They're covered in wax stains, thin cuts, and a slight pink discoloration from yesterday's scalding. You touch one of the calluses and remember when it was still a blister. That was months ago. Or years. You don't know anymore. The clock was sold. The days became soup. The room looks smaller in this light, though perhaps it's you who has grown too large for it. Not in size, but in knowing. When you first came here, the shop seemed like a mystery, filled with strange tools, secret processes, and smells you couldn't name. Now, there is nothing in it that surprises you. And yet, it still holds you. Still wraps itself around you each night as though it was always meant to. You glance toward the back shelf, where broken molds are piled like forgotten teeth. Some are cracked straight through the middle. Others are simply too bent to be useful. The master won't throw them away. Everything has its time, he once said, wiping his hands on a rag so dirty it made the wax seem clean. You used to think he meant the molds would one day be fixed. Now you understand, he meant everything eventually breaks. The candlelight reaches the far wall now, just barely. It highlights the edge of the master's old coat, hanging like a ghost from the nail by the door. The left sleeve droops lower than the right, a result of a repair made with twine instead of thread. You remember the night at tour, he slipped on a frozen stone, spilled half a pot of wax, and cursed so softly you barely heard it. He didn't shout, didn't rage, just sat on the floor and stared at the wall until the wax cooled. You'd never seen him look more tired. Or more honest. You think of leaving sometimes. Everyone does. You imagine stepping out the door and not turning back. Following the river until the building's thin, until the air smells like something other than smoke and sweat. But where would you go? You're not trained for anything else. You speak in wax. You breathe tallow. The city has carved its shape into you so thoroughly, you're not sure there's anything left to mold. You light another candle, not because you need more light, but because you want more company. 2 flames now, flickering like 2 eyes that never blink. The shadows behind them sway and stretch, long and slow like the arms of sleep. You stare at them until your vision blurs, and the lines of the room dissolve into soft gold. The night is deeper now, thick as syrup, heavy as oil. Paris is quieter. Not silent, never silent, but quieter. The footsteps have faded. The carts are still. Even the rats in the walls are paused, as though waiting for something. You feel it too, that waiting. But you don't know what for. You shift your weight again, pressing your forehead into the crook of your arm. The wood beneath your elbow is warm now, heated gently by the candle's presence. You think about the heat, how subtle it is. How it seeps in without permission. Not like fire, not like sun, but like breath. Gentle, but prominent. You close your eyes again. Just to rest them. Just until the wax cools. And there, in the stillness, the wax softens, the flame bends, and your thoughts begin to blur into one long, slow line of gold. You are still here. But you are beginning to disappear again. One flicker at a time. You wake, not because of a noise, but because the candle beside you has gone out, and your body noticed before your mind did. The sudden lack of light feels like someone left the room. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust, but you don't reach for a match. Not yet. You sit in the dark and listen. The air is quieter than usual, thick like cloth soaked in silence. Even the shutters have stopped creaking. The city, if it breathes at all, does so with the gentlest lungs. Your joints complain as you shift upright. Your shoulder pops. The stool scrapes faintly on the stone floor. You stretch your legs out, slow and stiff, as if you've aged overnight. Maybe you have. You look toward the door. Still closed. The crack beneath it glows faintly, a street lamp, moonlight, or another candle somewhere down the road, burning for someone else who's forgotten how to sleep. You think of them briefly, this stranger you'll never meet, both of you sitting beside dying flames, waiting for the city to exhale. You reach for a candle from the rack and press your thumb into its side. It gives slightly, still warm from earlier. You roll it in your palm like a pebble, feeling its weight. It's not heavy, but it's something. You strike a match, the sound is sharp in the quiet, a tiny rebellion, and light the wick. The flame shivers, then lifts its head. It fills the room with the color of old paper and melted dreams. You don't look away. It feels like company. The room hasn't changed. It never does. The walls still sag with the damp. The wax still pools in forgotten corners. But the light gives it all a softness, as if the space has decided not to mind being tired tonight. You breathe in through your nose, slowly, letting the air fill your chest. It smells like everything it always does: wax, smoke, wood, the ghost of grease, but tonight it seems calmer, less cruel. You stand and walk toward the shelf where the molds are kept. Your fingers trail along the edge of the table. The wood is smooth from years of oil and sweat. Each dent, each stain, is a memory, though none of them are yours. Not really. You lift one of the molds, the iron cold against your palms, and study it like you might a letter from a dead friend. You know every groove, every seam. You hold it a little longer than necessary before setting it down and reaching for the wax pot. It's thick now, nearly solid. You set it near the small stove and light a coil of paper beneath. The fire crackles softly, like it's whispering things you aren't meant to understand. You wait. There's no rushing wax. It warms slowly. Like grief. Like forgiveness. You take a cloth and begin wiping the workbench, not because it needs to be cleaned, it never truly is, but because the act of wiping something clean feels like control. Your fingers move in slow circles, pushing bits of wax into corners. The cloth is already dark with use, but you keep folding it, keep finding new corners. You don't want to stop. Eventually, the wax begins to melt. You smell it before you see it. That heavy, almost sweet scent, like lard and old wood having a quiet conversation. You pour it into the mold with a steady hand. It hisses faintly, like an old man easing into a bath. The sound is comforting. You sit again. Watch the mold. Watch the way the wax settles. You don't speak. There's no one to hear you, and nothing that needs saying. You rest your chin in your hand and stare at the flame again, smaller now, softer. It's like looking at something from far away. Something you once knew. You think about the people who used to live above the shop, the ones whose footsteps you used to hear at night. You never met them. Never saw their faces. But you heard them cough, laugh, fight. Then one day the sound stopped. The room stayed empty. Dust moved in instead. Now the upstairs creaks only for itself. You wonder if anyone will remember this shop when you're gone. If the smell of wax will cling to the walls long after the last candle is poured. If someone will sit in your chair and feel the warmth in the wood, without knowing why it's there. You don't know. You'll never know. But somehow, the idea is enough. The wax cools slowly. You leave it in the mold, untouched. Some nights, you finish the candle. Other nights, you don't. Tonight feels like a night for not finishing things. The candle on the table gutters low, the wick curling inward like it's tired of standing. You lean in and watch the last few seconds, the slow droop, the quiet sigh of the flame, and then the final flicker before it dies. The room sighs with it. You don't light another. You sit there, in the dark. And everything, for once, feels still. And in that stillness, you begin to disappear again. Like wax that never cooled. Like smoke that chose not to rise. You've stopped looking at the clock, though it wouldn't matter if you hadn't. The face is long gone, the hands broken off in some distant year when people still believed that counting hours made them easier to bear. Now, you count by candles. How many you've lit. How many have burned down. How many shadows the flames have softened. In this room, light is the only calendar, and it never tells you what day it is, only that you're still here, still breathing, still warm enough to notice. Your fingers smell like wax and ash. You rub them together and they make the faintest sound, like a match being struck in the distance. It comforts you. The wax has formed a thin coat on your nails, translucent, yellowed, like old parchment. You imagine your hands becoming candles themselves, little flames burning at the tips of your fingers, flickering each time you reach for something you've already held 1,000 times before. The city outside seems to have taken a breath and held it. No carts roll past. No dogs bark. Even the usual cough from the man across the alley has gone silent. It's not the kind of silence that frightens you, it's the kind that wraps around your shoulders like a forgotten coat. A silence that's heavy enough to keep you in your chair, light enough to let your thoughts wander where your feet never could. You light another candle. Not because you need to see, but because the act itself feels like prayer. The wax melts just enough to welcome the flame. The wick sighs, then burns. You set it beside the others. There are 4 now. A quiet constellation of gold, casting long, trembling shadows along the wall. You don't name them. You just watch them flicker. One leans to the left, as if whispering something to its neighbor. You wonder what secrets candlelight keeps. You pick up a mold from the edge of the table, one you haven't used in weeks. The handle is sticky from some forgotten spill. You wipe it clean, slowly, with a rag that has seen too much. The wax from earlier has cooled, but the pot is still warm. You pour without thinking. Your hands know the weight of the ladle, the way the liquid flows. You could do this in your sleep. Maybe you already have. You remember a night, long ago, when the shop was full. Not of people, it's never full of people, but full of sound. The master was humming. There was a crackling fire. You'd burned your thumb on a fresh poured mold and cursed under your breath, and the master laughed. Not cruelly. Just, knowingly. It's the only time you ever heard him laugh. You sometimes wonder if it happened at all. You missed the fire. The warmth. The hiss of green wood. But the stove was sold 2 winters ago, replaced by a smaller one that doesn't crackle, only wheezes. It tries. You give it credit for that. Your stomach reminds you that you haven't eaten since the cheese. Or was it bread? Or both? You can't remember. Hunger feels different here, less sharp, more like a soft knocking at the edge of your ribs. You ignore it. There's nothing left on the shelf but a wrinkled apple that's more idea than fruit. You touch it, then leave it alone. You'd rather be hungry than disappointed. You walk to the door, not to leave, but to lean against it. The wood is cool against your back. You press your head to it and listen. Nothing. Just the wind outside, brushing past like a stranger in a hurry. You wonder where it's going. What it carries. Who else it touches on its way through the city's sleeping mouth. Back at the table, the candles burn lower. The wax has begun to drip again, tracing new paths down the iron holders, pooling into hardened little puddles shaped like lost thoughts. You pick one up, still warm, and hold it in your hand. It fits perfectly in your palm. You think about taking it with you. Not anywhere specific, just away. As if carrying a piece of this night might help you understand it later. But you don't move. You don't need to. The shop is its own kind of destination. A place that never asks where you came from or where you'll go. It only asks that you be still long enough to notice when the wax turns white. You blow out one of the candles. Gently. Just one. The others stay lit. Their flames tremble, then calm. The room dims slightly, like someone pulled a curtain across your thoughts. The shadows lean closer. You let them. You're not afraid. Not anymore. You sit, once again, and fold your hands on the table. You close your eyes, and this time, you don't pretend you'll stay awake. You're not disappearing quickly now. It's not a vanishing. It's a melting. A soft folding inward, like wax returning to its beginning. And in the dim breath of candlelight, the workshop breathing with you, you begin to disappear again. Not to be lost. Only to rest. The room feels heavier now, as if it too is growing tired. Not in a dramatic way. There's no collapse, no shudder, no sound of surrender. Just a deep settling, like a loaf of bread cooling on a stone counter. You breathe in and smell the wax, not fresh, not burning, but at that perfect point where it begins to remember what it used to be. The smell is thick, but somehow comforting. You don't recoil from it anymore. You welcome it like a familiar voice in a long hallway. You lean forward again, your elbow on the table, head cradled in your palm. The candle before you burns with a short, steady flame. No flicker, no dance, just a low, steady breath of light. You stare into it. Not looking for anything. Not thinking. Just letting your eyes blow. The light presses gently into your vision until you begin to see shapes that aren't really there, soft loops, distant glows, a pale ring that fades as soon as you blink. The candle doesn't mind. It keeps burning anyway. You shift your gaze to the wall across from you. The shadows are longer now. They stretch in silence, draped across the plaster like blankets someone forgot to fold. You see the faint outline of the shelves, the low stool, the old broom propped in a corner like it's waiting to be remembered. Everything is still. Even the air moves more slowly, as if unsure whether it's allowed. You don't speak. You haven't spoken in hours. Maybe longer. You can't remember the last word you said. It was probably yes. Or maybe just a grunt. The kind of word that isn't really a word, but a sound you offer when the world expects you to react. In here, no one expects anything. The candles never ask questions. The wax never judges your silence. It simply holds its shape until you ask it not to. You rise slowly, your legs protesting slightly as you stand. You walk toward the back shelf, where the wax blocks are stored, the ones you'll melt down in the morning, or perhaps the day after. You touch one gently with the back of your fingers. It's cool. Firm. Smells faintly of old fat and candle smoke. You press it to your cheek for a second, just to feel something that isn't thought. You remember the man who used to deliver these blocks, the one with the twisted ankle and a hat always too large. He smelled like pickled onions and spoke with a voice that cracked like an old violin. One day, he simply stopped coming. No explanation. No replacement. Just absence. You wonder if he died, or simply found a better smelling job. You wouldn't blame him either way. You return to the table. The flame wavers slightly, as if it missed you. You sit. Rest your elbows. Look again at the candle. The wax has melted down the side in thin trails, solidifying as it goes, tiny rivers that ended their journey before they ever reached the edge. You run your finger along one of them, feel the bumps and ridges, the coolness. It reminds you of the roads in Paris, uneven, sticky, always leading somewhere but never where you hoped. You think of the people walking those streets now. A woman hurrying home with a shawl pulled tightly around her shoulders. A boy carrying a basket of something too heavy for him. A man sitting alone under a flickering street lamp, lighting a pipe with the last match in his pocket. You wonder how many of them have passed this shop without knowing what's inside. Without knowing you. And you think, maybe that's how it should be. The candle dips lower. Its light softens. The shadows grow bolder, slipping closer, pooling in corners like ink left too long in the rain. You don't mind. They know you by now. You've lived among them long enough to understand they're not trying to scare you. They just need somewhere to rest. Your head begins to nod forward. You catch it, straighten up, blink. The flame doubles for a second, then settles. You murmur something to yourself. You don't know what it was. Maybe a word. Maybe a name. Maybe nothing at all. The room feels warm now. Not because the fire is hot, it's not, but because the silence is thick enough to hold you. Like melted wax poured around your thoughts. You let it. You close your eyes. Just a little. The kind of closing that starts as a blink and ends as forgetting. The candle's glow turns to gold behind your lids. You stay there, at the edge of waking. Listening. Breathing. Vanishing. You are not alone. You are not awake. You are not asleep. You are something in between. And in that space, you begin to disappear again. Not afraid. Just fading. Like wax on a fingertip, cooling beneath the breath of night. You wake not from sound, but from the strange stillness of the flame. It's not that the candle has gone out, no, it still burns, but somehow it feels quieter now. As if the fire has learned your breathing pattern and decided to match it. You sit very still, eyes half open, watching it dance not like a performer, but like someone pacing the floor alone at night. There's no urgency to it. Just motion. Just glow. Your back aches from leaning too long in one position. You shift slowly, the stool creaking beneath you like an old friend warning you not to move too quickly. Your shoulder pops again. Your knees resist. You're not old, not really, but the wax and the work age you in invisible places. You run your palm over your face, feel the warmth that lingers there. The smell of tallow still clings to your fingers, and something sweeter beneath it, faint, like the memory of honey. The city outside has become more idea than place. It no longer feels like buildings and bricks in gutters. It feels like mist. Like breath on a window. Like something waiting for morning. You hear the faintest echo of a bell tower, far away, a single chime. You don't count which hour it's marking. You don't care. Time, in this space, no longer announces itself with numbers. It arrives by the angle of shadow, by the temperature of stone, by how deeply your eyes sink into the candlelight. You reach across the table, fingers brushing over the spent stubs of previous flames. They're curled now, the wax hardened like delicate bones. You pick one up, turn it in your hand. It's weightless. Hollow. Useless. And still, you can't bring yourself to throw it away. It gave its light. That was enough. You light another candle, carefully, holding the match close until the wick accepts it. The flame hesitates, then blooms. It feels like starting a conversation you know won't go far, but you speak anyway. The flame answers in its own language, soft, wordless, kind. You settle again, wrapping your arms around your knees, your chin resting on the ridge of bone just above your folded limbs. The table glows. The floor is cold. The walls hold in every breath you release. The wax in the pot has cooled fully now. You scrape at it gently with a spoon, just to hear the sound. It crackles faintly, like a fire long gone remembering what warmth felt like. You think, without meaning to, about all the people who have never lit a candle. Not because they didn't need one, but because someone always lit it for them. You wonder what that must feel like, to step into a room and expect the dark to go away, simply because you've entered. To never strike a match. To never smell the burn. You don't envy them. Light, to you, has always meant effort. Flame has always meant hands. Your fingers find a length of wick on the bench. You twist it slowly between your thumb and forefinger, winding it tighter, tighter, until it resembles a tiny rope. You set it down beside the candle you just lit, and for a moment, you imagine lighting it too, holding two flames in your gaze like twin suns over a city made of wax. But you don't. One is enough tonight. You sit in silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because the silence is saying everything for you. The candle hums gently. The shadows nestle into their corners. The floor beneath your feet is solid and cold and loyal. You remember a time you laughed. A real laugh, not one of those forced huffs of breath that escape under pressure, but a true laugh that shook your ribs. It was a long time ago. Maybe when the master accidentally sat on a candle mold and blamed the cat. You didn't even have a cat. The memory makes you smile now, just barely. The kind of smile that doesn't move your mouth, only your thoughts. The flame tilts. A draft from somewhere. Perhaps the shadow shifted. Perhaps the city sighed. The flame bends, then recovers. You whisper, steady, to it. Not as a command. More as a wish. The candle burns lower, the pool of wax deepening in the holder. You lean closer and see your reflection in it, not clear, not sharp, just a blur of shadow and light. It doesn't look like you, not exactly. But you recognize the tiredness. The quiet. The waiting. You stay there, close to the flame, as though it were telling you something. Not in words, not in warnings. Just in warmth. Just in glow. And slowly, gently, as the wax cools beneath your breath, you begin to disappear again. Not into sleep, but into the soft, golden hush that lives between moments. The candle burns low. You can see the bottom of the holder now, the metal glinting faintly beneath the pool of melted wax. The flame is smaller than before, but not weaker, just more deliberate, more focused, like it's saving its strength for one final task. You sit and watch it. You've forgotten what time it is. You're no longer sure if it's the same day, or if the night has folded into a new one while you weren't paying attention. It doesn't matter. Not here. Not in this room, where the flame marks the hours better than any bell tower ever could. You shift your foot, nudging a lump of old wax on the floor. It rolls an inch, then stops. You don't pick it up. You just stare at it, wondering which candle it came from. Who it lit for. What it saw. You think about the wax you've poured that ended up in places you'll never know. Dark chapels, quiet kitchens, maybe even someone's pocket, carried like a talisman. Your hands have given light to hundreds, maybe thousands. But no one knows your name. That thought used to make you feel small. Now, it makes you feel steady. You reach for the spoon again and tap the side of the wax pot, even though it's long cooled. The sound is soft, dull, like a bell wrapped in cloth. You do it again. And again. The rhythm becomes something like comfort, not a song, not a message, just a feeling your hand is sharing with the room. You stop and close your eyes. Let your other senses lead for once. You smell the wax, still warm near the flame, but harder near the edges. You feel the air move ever so slightly, brushing your face like the hem of an old curtain. You hear the faint creak of the ceiling, the same one you always hear around this hour, like the roof is rolling over in its sleep. The workshop is alive, in its own quiet way. Breathing with you. You open your eyes and the candle is lower still. The flame wavers, then straightens. You whisper to it again, just a single word, stay. You don't expect it to listen. But sometimes, things do. You think back to your first day here. You were smaller. Quieter. Dirtier, if such a thing is possible. The master handed you a rag and said, everything is wax. Even you. You just haven't melted yet. You hadn't understood him then. Maybe you still don't. But the words have stayed, floating in the corners of your mind like the smell of cool tallow on a cold stone shelf. You wonder if he still believes that. You wonder if you do. Your hands ache. You flex your fingers slowly, each knuckle cracking in protest. You press your palms together and feel the wax residue cling and pull. It's always there, the wax. beneath your nails, on your sleeves, in your hair. You stopped trying to wash it out long ago. It's easier to let it become part of you. And maybe that's what he meant. Maybe melting isn't a loss. Maybe it's just the shape you take when the heat is kind. You rise and walk to the door again. You open it this time, just a crack. The street outside is damp, washed in gray. There's no sun, only the faintest shift in color that hints at morning. You see a woman walking, wrapped in shawls, carrying a candle inside a glass jar. Her head is down. Her steps are slow. The jar swings gently from her fingers. You wonder if it's one of yours. You decide it is. You close the door quietly and return to your seat. The candle on the table gives a final twitch, then settles. You watch the last curl of smoke rise from the wick. It disappears into the air without ceremony. You don't light another right away. You let the dark return. Let it fill the corners. Let it rest on your shoulders like a shawl you never asked for. It doesn't press down. It doesn't demand. It simply arrives. And you welcome it. You rest your arms on the table, lay your head down gently. You can feel the warmth of the wax through the wood. It's fading, but still there. Like a goodbye you're not quite ready to hear. And as the light leaves the room, and your breath grows softer, and the wax stiffens in the pot beside you, you begin to disappear again. Not into silence, but into the very thing that silence holds. You stay like that for a long time. Head down, arms folded, the faint warmth of the table seeping slowly into your skin. You don't sleep, not exactly. It's something gentler than sleep, something that doesn't ask you to close your eyes or stop thinking, just to slow down enough that everything begins to stretch. Your thoughts grow long and soft, like candle smoke in a still room. They don't lead anywhere. They just drift. The smell of the wax has faded into something fainter now, no longer heavy, no longer sharp. It's become part of the air itself. You breathe in and it feels like a memory you never made. You wonder if it will always smell this way, even years from now, even in places far from here. Will you carry this with you? Will the wax still cling to your coat in some distant town where no one knows your name? You sit up slowly. The movement feels like stepping through water. The light is gone, and the dark is thick, but familiar. You don't rush. You reach for another candle and turn it in your fingers. You don't need it, not really, but your hands are so used to holding light that they don't know what else to do. You light it. The flame blooms gently, curling up the wick like it's remembering how to be alive. You place it down and look around. The room is the same, of course. The walls unchanged. The shelves still cluttered with old tools and broken molds. But the candle gives it all new edges again. The kind of light that doesn't show details, only shape. Only presence. You pull your stool closer to the pot. The wax inside is stiff, but not completely hardened. You run the spoon across its surface slowly, and it gives a little. You scrape up a small curl and watch it fold back in on itself. It looks like something trying to become a candle, but stopping halfway. You don't try to fix it. Not tonight. You think, again, about the city beyond the shop walls. The lives still moving just outside your reach. You picture someone lighting one of your candles right now, a child in a small room, reading aloud to no one, pretending the shadows are an audience. A man sitting by his fire, holding a letter he hasn't opened. A midwife's hands slick with water, moving quickly beneath a trembling flame. All of them touched by your work. All of them unaware of you. You used to wish they knew. That they might stop and think, just for a moment, about the person who shaped the wax. Trimmed the wick. Carried the bundle through the wet streets. But now it feels better this way. To exist in the background. To live in the glow of what you've made. Not the light, but the making of it. You lift the candle and bring it closer to your face. The flame is steady, quiet. You study its shape, how it narrows at the top, sways with your breath. You lean closer until the warmth kisses your cheek. It doesn't burn. It just lingers. You close your eyes again, but you don't drift this time. You stay. Aware. Present. Listening to the air move around the flame. You hear the small pops of the wax pulling back from the holder. You hear your own breath. Nothing else. Your hands begin to feel heavy. The kind of weight that comes not from exhaustion, but from release. The way your body lets go when it knows the world won't ask anything more of you tonight. You place the candle back on the table and fold your arms again. The light brushes your skin. The warmth cradles the edge of your thoughts. The shutter rattles softly. You turn toward the window, half expecting to see something there. A face, maybe. A passing shadow. But it's only the wind. The same wind that's been whispering down alleys and under doors since before you were born. You nod to it, as if it's an old friend. Maybe it is. The flame flickers, then straightens again. You smile at it. Not a full smile, just enough to remind yourself that you're still here. That there's still something inside you that recognizes beauty, even in something so small. Even in a flicker. The room feels smaller now, but not in a bad way. It's like the walls have come closer just to keep you warm. The shadows tuck themselves neatly along the edges. Nothing is hiding. Nothing is loud. You breathe again. Long, slow. Letting the moment press itself into you like warm wax against paper. And then, without needing to try, you begin to disappear again. Like a flame dipping its head. Not extinguished. Just resting. You're not quite awake, but not yet gone. The light from the candle rests against your eyelids like the memory of a kiss, there, but fading. You haven't moved in some time. The stool beneath you has stopped creaking, the floorboards have gone still, and even your breath feels slower, as if it's trying not to disturb the flame. Everything in the room has agreed to be quiet together. It's not the silence of nothing, it's the silence of acceptance. The kind that fills a space when everyone knows they're not waiting for anything anymore. You lift your head just slightly and let your eyes open. The candle still burns. It hasn't given up on you. Its wax has melted down both sides now, leaving long trails across the iron holder that shimmer faintly like silver threads on old cloth. The flame is steady. Not tall, not fierce. Just enough. You sit up straighter and stretch your arms forward, fingers laced, knuckles popping one at a time. The sound feels like it belongs to someone else, like something you're overhearing through a wall. Your hands are dry. Stiff. Coated in a thin crust of wax that cracks a little when you move. You pick at it gently. Not to clean it, just to feel something break away. The room smells different now. The tallow has cooled, the smoke has thinned, and in its place is something gentler, the smell of old stone and used fire, of rags that have held too much heat and air that's been breathed in and out so many times it no longer tries to be fresh. It's not pleasant. But it's not unpleasant either. It's simply the scent of the end of a long day. Or a long life. Or a long forgetting. You glance toward the pot. The wax inside is pale now, a cloudy, rippled surface like frozen milk. You touch it once, press your fingertip into the center. It gives a little, like skin gone soft with time. You leave no mark. You never do. You stand. The floor is cold beneath your bare feet. You don't remember removing your shoes, but there they are, neatly against the wall, dust clinging to the leather like ash. You walk toward them, pick one up, hold it for a moment. The sole is worn thin. The stitching is coming loose. You place it back down. You're not going anywhere. You pace the room once, not in a circle, just in a slow line from one wall to the next and back again. Your fingers trail across the edge of the shelves, the lip of the workbench, the top of the stool. Everything you touch feels familiar and foreign at the same time, as if you've lived here forever and just arrived. You return to the candle and lower yourself beside it. Not back onto the stool, but onto the floor this time, your knees folded, your arms resting in your lap. The flame is now at eye level, and you stare into it as if it might speak. And in a way, it does. Not in words, but in warmth, in motion, in that slow, pulsing rhythm that flickers in time with your own tired breath. You think of the first candle you ever made. It was short, uneven, the wick too long. It sputtered when lit, hissed like a scolded cat, then died within minutes. You'd wanted to throw it away. The master had stopped you. He held it up to the light and said, "You lit it, didn't you? Then it did its job. You've kept that candle. It sits in a wooden box beneath the bench, surrounded by stubs and scraps and other little failures you never had the heart to discard. Maybe one day, you'll light it again. Maybe not. Some lights are only meant to burn once." You lean forward and blow gently toward the candle on the table. The flame wavers, then settles. You didn't extinguish it. You just reminded it you were there. You smile faintly. A smile that no one will see, and that makes it feel more real. The air in the room feels heavier now. Not oppressive. Just full. Like a book at the end of a long story. You listen to the walls. They creak in their sleep. The wood shifts. The wax sighs. Even the shadows seem to sink lower, curling around the baseboards like cats at rest. You close your eyes. Just for a moment. Just to see what the darkness feels like with the flame still burning nearby. It's softer than you expected. Like the candle is holding the night back for you, one breath at a time. And as the flame flickers, and the wax cools, and the room forgets the world outside, you begin to disappear again. Not because you must, but because you can. The candle's flame has leaned again, bowing ever so slightly to one side, as if acknowledging something only it can see. You notice it from where you sit on the floor, knees tucked under your chin, arms loose around your shins. You watch the flame as it tries to straighten, as it adjusts itself not out of pride, but because that's what flames do. They move, they try, even when no one's looking. Especially then. You smile, barely. Not because it's funny, but because it's true. You reach out a hand and hover it above the little fire, feeling its low warmth gather beneath your palm. It's not hot, not sharp. Just enough to remind you that something is still alive in the room. The wax below the flame is nearly spent now. The pool has grown wide and shallow, like a lake in drought. Soon it will reach its edge. Soon the wick will gasp. But not yet. You think about how strange it is, this little job, this little life, making light out of things no one wants. Scraps of fat, shreds of cloth, ash, bone. You've spent years shaping ugliness into warmth. It's never made you rich. Never made you known. But it's made something. And in this city, in this century, in this world, that might be more than most can say. You let your hand fall back into your lap and close your eyes, though you don't sleep. The scent of wax is still in the air, thick in the corners, clinging to every breath. You feel it slide down the back of your throat, not unpleasant, just constant. You've stopped wishing it away. Some things you learn to live with. Some things become the way you mark the passage of time. You think of the master. Of his voice. Low, like an old cupboard opening. You haven't seen him in hours. Maybe longer. You wonder if he's sleeping behind the curtain, curled in his chair with a half-melted candle burning beside him. You wonder if he dreams of wax. You wonder if he ever stopped smelling it, the way you have. You open your eyes. The candle flickers again. It's lower now. Shorter. The wax is almost gone. You feel a strange sort of tenderness toward it, as if it were a pet or a friend. You don't want it to go. But you don't want to stop it either. There's a quiet pride in watching it last this long. You shift slightly and lean your shoulder against the table's leg. The wood is rough, but familiar. You've scraped wax off this table more times than you can count. You've cut wicks here, trimmed molds, burned your fingers, bled a little, laughed once or twice. This table has held most of your days. It doesn't owe you anything. But you think, maybe, it knows your name. You stare at the flame again. It's smaller now. Thin as a whisper. You lean in, not close enough to blow it out, just close enough to share the space. You wonder, quietly, what this candle has seen, what faces it's lit, what shadows it stretched, what secrets it has carried. You wonder how many nights have ended just like this one, with you, and a single flame, and a silence too big for the room. The wind outside stirs again. You hear it pushing against the shutter like a question. The flame bends, resists, then finds itself again. Brave little thing. You resist the urge to cup your hands around it. You don't need to protect it. It knows what it's doing. You listen to the wax. It sizzles faintly. The sound is so soft you almost miss it. Like breathing. Like memory. You watch as it pulls into one last perfect oval around the base. And then you let it be. You don't speak. You don't move. And then, after all this time, you feel it begin. The wick curls in on itself. The light dims. The flame leans once more, and then, without drama, without sound, it goes. There is no smoke. Just a faint warmth on your cheek, like a goodbye without the words. The room darkens. But not all at once. The glow lingers behind your eyes, echoing, soft as wax on skin. And you, too, begin to go with it. Not far. Not fast. Just enough. To leave the light. And become the rest. The room is quiet now. Not simply because the candle has gone out, but because something deeper has settled. A kind of hush that doesn't just fill the space, it becomes it. The walls seem to breathe differently. The air has weight, but not heaviness. It wraps itself around you like a blanket warmed by memory. You sit in that silence for a long while, not thinking, not trying. Just being. You are not in the past anymore. Not in the future. Just here. With what remains. You haven't moved since the flame disappeared. You didn't need to. Your body understood that the moment had ended, and that what followed wasn't action, but stillness. You rest your back against the table leg and listen. Not for sounds, the shot makes none now, but for what the silence is saying. It speaks gently, in long pauses and soft absences. It doesn't ask for your attention. It simply shares yours. The wax has hardened again. You don't see it, but you know. You can feel it in the air, that change in scent, in texture, in the way the heat has finally lifted. The pot is cool now. The mold's untouched. The work is done, though it was never finished. It never needed to be. That's the lesson, perhaps, that some things are not made to be completed. Only continued. Your fingers are still slightly sticky from the last candle. You rub them together absently, the way you always do when your thoughts have grown too soft to hold. The sensation grounds you. Not fully. Just enough to remember that you're still in a body. Still in a room. Still in the shape of yourself. You look toward the shelves, though the room is too dark to see them. But you know what's there. The broken molds. The old ladle with the dent in its side. The scraps of wick too short to use. The first candle you ever made, curled at the base like a question you never answered. These things keep you company in a way people rarely do. They ask nothing of you. They change only when you let them. You close your eyes. Not because you're tired, not because you want to sleep, but because the darkness feels complete now. It welcomes you. You lean your head back against the table leg and breathe. Deeply. Slowly. As if the air itself is something sacred. And then, you begin to feel the room vanish. Not in pieces. Not suddenly. Just a soft dimming, like a fire fading beneath its own ashes. The walls loosen their grip on form. The floor beneath you softens. The air, thick with wax and time, becomes lighter with every breath. You are not afraid. You are not sad. You are not even leaving. You are simply becoming part of the silence. You think of the thousands of candles you've lit. Each one a brief life. Each one a little hope. You think of how many shadows you've helped soften, how many rooms you've warmed. And for the first time, you feel it, that you've made something lasting, even if no one sees it. You have been the flame. And now you are the wax. You have been the warmth. And now you are the night. The city outside begins to wake, slowly, carelessly. Somewhere, a cart wheel turns. A bird stirs. A kettle is placed on fire. But in here, in this small forgotten room, you remain untouched. Because you are not waiting anymore. You are not making anymore. You are not even dreaming anymore. You are only resting. And as the world begins again without you, you disappear, gently. Completely. Quietly. Like the last breath of a candle, in the hour before dawn. Candle.